Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get the show. So today, before we get to our very special guest, let's kick it off with our weekly Patreon question. And this week we have, what is your number one goal going into 2025?
God, we're not there yet. I usually set that.
This episode will release on January 1st.
Yeah, New Year's Eve.
Wow.
Me and you, New Year's Eve, bro.
New Year's
Awesome.
Day. Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I hate resolutions because it seems like you're always statistically people set themselves up for failure. So that's a tough question. Easy question, but
Last year we had Dr. Gabrielle Lyon on for New Year's Day, and we asked her about resolutions, and she was like,
She said the same thing, right?
yeah, she's like, we don't do
Don't do that?
resolutions. We do goals or
Goals.
something like that. And I was like, oh, it made me feel really bad about myself. Yeah. What's yours, babe?
So I set one a few years back, and every New Year's I sharpen it. So New Year's Day, I always delete all my apps on my phone. So just to get all the clutter out of there, and then I stack them back up as I go through just to see which one I kind of need. And then my morning routine, I'll try and sharpen that even more. By the time, make sure I get up at that certain time.
what is that certain time?
5:30. So the dogs wake me up at 5:30, hands down. I usually sit up around, it's weird, like around 3:30, 4 o'clock. I'm just kind of set up, and I'll try and lay back down, but it's up and moving by that time. So I've already been in the chair and meditated for 20 minutes, said my rosary, walked 2 miles, get the kids breakfast and off to school. And I'm trying to sharpen that down even more. So my life is locked in. It's when I run into somebody else, I can help deal with what they got going on.
Yep.
But it never pulls me away. So I started doing that a few years back.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. And for all of our friends out there, Marcus also deletes his contacts at the beginning of the year to see who texted.
I do that.
And then I'll get,
Like, who really cares about me? They'll send me a message.
Yeah.
I'll hear from them, and then I'll just lock them back in.
yeah, I'm like, you need to reintroduce who you are because he deleted all of his
He
contacts.
forgot about you.
Which is kind of a pain in the ass because some of the contacts are pretty resourceful. And when I run into them, they're like, hey, man, how come you haven't been texting me? I'm like, bro.
Why ain't you text me?
Yeah. I'm like, why didn't you hit me up, man?
Yeah.
It's always like that.
Yeah.
What about you?
So what is yours? Do you
I
have,
think-
do you have a goal at least or
I mean,
2025?
So this year is going to be, I'm working on opening up, which we'll talk more about it, but a treatment center for men. And so this year I'm hoping we're operating in January, February. And so 3 days a week, like I want to spend the mornings with those guys, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for 1 year, be there 6 a.m., have them out on the weight pile, driving them, praying with them. But yeah, I want to 3 days a week with my guys that I'm serving. I want to like start their morning. So that's going to be my goal.
So cool.
I think I want to keep it simple. Just
Oh, you're young.
I definitely feel like I need to be more organized. So I'm going to do mine organization route.
What's your sock drawer look like?
So luckily my clothes is probably the most organized about me. I want to get my schedule organized, get like a planner, maybe something like that. Just have everything written down because right now I'm just going off the top of my head and things get falling behind and it's just hard to keep up with whenever there's a whole bunch of things going on. So I feel like that'll keep me on track a lot easier.
Yeah, you need to use like a digital calendar or something to send you reminders.
Well, most people try to stack too many things in one day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to start doing all this. I'm like, hey, man,
Yeah.
like with us, when we start working out, 1 day a week for 2 weeks, just to get over there
Yep.
and not even work out, just to go there.
Yep.
And then the second week, then we'll talk. And it's kind of like with anything you do, man, you stack it.
Don't set yourself up for failure.
Yeah. Just get the idea. And let me tell you something. On January 1st, I want you just to think about being organized
Yeah,
for 2 weeks.
Need to work on
Just
one
think about
thing
it.
at a time.
Yeah, just think about being organized for 2 weeks. And on that third week, get your planner
Yep.
and look at that sucker for a week. And I mean, literally, instead of just tacking it on there like you're wearing it, man, tattoo it in there. And that's how
Yeah.
you do that. It's kind of like slow, methodical deal.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. I like that.
So when someone talk, that it helps, especially when I learned that, man, when I got hurt,
Mm.
when I got injured, I couldn't roll in like I used to. And if you got something else going on, it affects everything else. That's just the
Yep.
way it is. I didn't know that.
You got to pace yourself.
Pace yourself, man. Like slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's the saying in the SEAL team. This is one of our most important ones. I mean, we say
Slow
it regularly.
Say that again.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And you've ever seen anybody who walks around into a room, who controls a room, man, especially if they're smooth, they're moving slow.
Yep.
Mhm.
And they talk at a pace like an easy listening station, right?
That's funny you say that because I'm thinking about that, and that's Willie. Like if you hung out
Yeah,
with Willie, he's
Robertson?
he's so slow, but he's smooth and
Yeah.
and he's
because there's too slow.
Yeah.
We're gonna like it's like the
Yeah.
heart skipping a beat or your motor's far, doing something wrong. But like
Yeah.
when those ones that can just kind of they get you on this rhythm, man, and it doesn't even matter what they're talking about. Like, I got you, man. I
Yeah,
can hear
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Willie's great though, and he does get everything done.
He does
so-
get it done, and
yeah.
but he's moving at his pace,
Yeah.
slow and smooth. And by the
Mhm.
time you're done, you're like, okay, I got it.
God, if you take the time to train that into a kid to where they can grow into it, because it's easier. Because with kids, it's like a one thing at a time.
Yep.
You can tell if somebody's put the work into a kid like that,
Yeah.
just by the way they move and how he is. That's
I
true,
don't
man.
know if they told you. So just for our listeners, we found our guest today from the Robertsons, and we have been friends with Willie and Corey for a long, long, long time. They were actually at our wedding in 2010, right before Duck Dynasty launched, or it might have just launched. And everybody at the wedding was like, who's the guy with the big beard?
They were saying that.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, who the hell is that
Yeah,
dude? Like,
with the big beard. Yeah,
just
and
a
then-
great guy.
It was
Yeah.
just Buck Commander by then.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Buck
yeah.
Commander. And then Duck Dynasty launched right after that, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, he was at the wedding!" So it was really fun. But Marcus had met the Robertsons.
They used to have this shotgun commercial when they would paddle with it and be like, boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one, I when I saw that first time, I thought that was the coolest damn thing. When Cajun put that on the show, I was like, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then they just became family to
Yeah.
us over the years. So we absolutely love all of the Robertson family. They're amazing.
Well, let's back this up a little bit, man. Where were you born?
Petaluma, California, Northern California, just north of San Francisco.
Family from there?
Yep.
How long y'all been over there?
So we'll get into it in the story. I don't live there no more, but since my dad's part, like they're born and raised.
Oh, check. Okay, cool.
Yep. Born and
Siblings?
raised. Yep.
How many you got?
5.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yep.
Big family.
Yeah.
Big family.
So what? Give us your.
You got to
childhood-
answer yours though.
Oh, my Patreon question. Mine is
I thought
balanced.
she was getting off.
Yeah, I
of
was
it.
trying to get away from it. My Patreon question is 2025. I just want more balance. I need to I just need to figure out my ebb and flow better.
Yeah, because the tides, they are changing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just mine. Mine's easy and simple. But let's get into you. So give
Okay.
us your backstory, your childhood.
Yeah, so I was born in Petaluma, California.
Mhm.
Back then, it was a smaller town. It's a lot busier now. Farm town, ranch town, close enough to.
What are we
big-
talking about? What kind of farming?
Dairy, like lots of dairies. milk.
Because especially when I was in Texas, I was young, before I went there, when you think California, miss LA.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep.
And when they say NorCal, they'll think San Francisco. They have no idea there's country up. Most of it's country. Beautiful country.
The crazy thing is like, if you look, like the election map is a perfect thing to look at. Like you take LA and San Francisco out of there, everything's red, everything's
Mhm.
like rural.
People about them.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
amazing. I didn't
yeah.
know that.
Yeah. So Petaluma now it's so close to San Francisco. It's it's yuppity. Now I'm up in Chico, California, which is about an hour and 15 north of Sacramento, the foothills of the mountains.
Bro, that man right over there went to Chico State.
Mhm. Matt Axelson.
Okay.
That's how I
Yeah.
got introduced to California
So-
up there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great town.
Great town. Yep. Has everything we need.
Was. Still is, right?
It still is.
Okay.
It still is.
Matter of fact, it was a lot of fun.
It used to be lots of fun.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
pray it's still a lot of fun out there.
So I
because
never, back in my party days, right, which we'll get into.
we can talk about. Yeah, it's okay, man. We can go back into our youth a little bit.
So yeah, like back in my party days, I never really had good luck at Chico. I think I had handcuffs on me both times, and yeah,
It's
just
too much fun.
too much fun.
Yeah. It happens.
But yeah, I was born in Petaluma. Mom and dad were young, 17, 18, so kind of grew up with my grandparents, and moved around a lot, you know, from mom. Mom got married to my stepdad, who I look at as my father. My real dad, I love him to death, but his handle is Frank the Tank, so that kind of
Really?
shows you what his
All right.
his influence, right? And
Still roll like that?
he's slowed down. He's
Check.
slowed down, but you know, it was he was always just fighting to see me, right? He was a big athlete himself, and always fighting to see me. But we all know how those custody battles go, and how family drama is the worst drama. So I was kind of stuck in the middle of that, and moved up to a smaller town, the most poorest town community in California, called Clear Lake. My mom and stepdad moved up there when I was in 5th grade to buy some property, and yeah, it was like the meth capital of California, one of the poorest towns in the state. So I seen a lot of just like poverty and the impact on drugs. My hopes and dreams was to play professional football or baseball. I was always the top athlete on any team I stepped onto. But by the time I was expelled my junior year after football season, I had been to 17 different schools. So that shows you, like, I was moving all around, and you know, as a kid, you need validation, you want to be accepted, you want to be seen. And so I knew my family loved me, but the only place I really had that real validation and felt seen and heard was when I was playing sports. So, you know, fast forward to getting expelled. And you know, it's crazy because I still say it like I got expelled, which I essentially did, but the principal actually wanted me to do the rest of my junior year homeschool, come back my senior year, you know, set up to go off to college and play football. But to me, I remember when he was telling me this, like, you know, 16-year-old son or 16-year-old kid, you think you know everything, right? And like, he's telling me, you know, I remember going back to that principal's office, and he's telling me, like, oh, you can't do, you know, this isn't working. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'm done. Like, it just was like, I know everything, I'm done. Like, my mind's made up. I'm stubborn as heck. I really only had baseball season and wrestling left because it was just after football season. But I walked out of that principal's office, and, you know, no school, no sports, no school. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna go figure out this world on my own. My parents like enforced that. They're like, if you're gonna live underneath this roof, you're gonna go to school, which was homeschool, or you're gonna start working. And my dad owned, we still owned the construction company, and so it was very easy. Like, I grew up working, whether it was with him or out on the dairies with my aunts and uncles. And then immediately, like within months of like making that choice to start working and become, you know, an adult, a man, you know, I going back to wanting to be a pro athlete. Like, I loved the game, but then you see the lifestyle, you see the cars, the houses, the money, the women, like the whole lifestyle that the pro athletes, you know, glamorize. And so it's like, okay, like, I wanted that, you know, as a teenager, when you become a teenager, you're like, those things matter, right?
That's all your eyes are fixed on.
Yeah.
Whatever's shiny.
Whatever's shiny. And so that was real, and that had a hold on my life. And, you know, I'm in this poverty community. Drugs are everywhere. Everybody who had a nice car, they were selling dope or growing tons of weed on the mountain. And so, I started, you know, hanging around all the wrong people, all the wrong places, seeking this validation, wanting to be accepted, covered myself up with tattoos. And by the time I was 18, I had both arms tattooed, you know, fully tatted, and I'm growing pot on a large scale. And so, like, full on criminal by the time I'm 18. And yeah, like, it was downhill battle from there, or uphill battle. And
What's that like? At 18, when you're running, because when you leave school and you start work and you get a taste of adulthood, it's kind of hard to turn back around.
Yep. So I remember this is crazy. I don't even think I've shared this. I remember going to a football game, which would have been my senior season, right? And you know, I'm already like, I got, nice cars. I'm, rolling around with a gun at the time. Well, depending on if there's drama or not, like going on, like I might, have a gun with me, but I'm going to the football game to support my friends, my like the dudes that are my same age. I'm supposed to be quarterback on this football team. And so I'm sitting in the parking lot, getting ready to go into the football game. And this weight of shame just came over me, this guilt, like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. Like, I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna walk into the bleachers, you're gonna have like all the people that are thinking like, man, like he's supposed to be down there, winning football games.
That's exactly what they're thinking.
But then there's gonna be the parents like, oh, like, what a waste,
That's exactly what they're thinking too.
And I'm like, that hit me. And I actually think I don't even went into that game. I think like I went and did so. I think I turned around. I supported the team and went to games from time to time. But that night specifically, I don't think I went in. Like, I just sat there and I'm like, no, like this is, I can't handle this. Right.
There's some things that weigh on a man.
Yeah.
I mean, real feelings.
But like, I didn't know how to process that. So I imagine what I did is I went, because it was a Friday night, obviously football. I probably went to a party and started drinking and put those feelings into, a bottle of whiskey. And
that's what we do at that age.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so, and imagine I, got in some type of trouble, whether, it was, minor trouble or
mischief. Yeah.
Mischief.
Yeah.
So picked up an addiction. Not really, like the only time I've ever had handcuffs on me was when I was under the influence of alcohol. But, I've done a lot of programs, a lot of work on myself and help a lot of people. But one of the things that I've kind of steered me away from, the AA and NA meetings is, one, you're an addict and you can't live with this stuff, or, you just some of the philosophies haven't always set with me, because I wasn't relying on drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
And like, I was addicted, anything that could numb the emotions, whether it was, rolling wheelies on a Harley or doing, as fast as I can and, fast muscle cars, or surround myself with women, or what, partying, right? Even if I wasn't drinking, just like going, if I'm moving and doing something and tapping into that adrenaline, I'm suppressing the emotions and the feelings and all the thoughts. And my mom always used to tell me, she's like, why do you have a house? Why do you, try to set yourself up with nice things, even though it was all illegally? Like, you don't sit still. Like, I've always been the ADHD kid that's always moving, but like, and like, I processed that, that question to her, like, why do you, why can't you sit still? Well, I couldn't sit in my own thoughts, in my own skin. And so, yeah, by the time I was 18, I was living a full-on criminal lifestyle, and things just progressed. It was, just growing weed, selling weed. Then it became, shipping it across the country on a large scale. And then, hanging out with, the motorcycle world, the outlaw motorcycle world was like very attractive to me, because there was a sense of brotherhood.
I get that. It's there.
It's there.
100%.
A lot of those
of our guys do that when they get out. They roll right out. I think that's why sports are so important when we're growing up as kids, because it's like it's a pack mentality.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is like, what do you do when you don't have it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say is you got to think, when God put us down here to subdue the earth.
Yep.
Yeah. Once men got done doing that, then we started killing each other.
Yep.
So like, hey man, let's have some fun with this a little bit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's supposed to be, we can go back and forth about it, but it's still a competition, because if you don't have that, guys will do this.
Yep.
Like, we'll find a way to pack up.
Yep.
And there's a feeling that goes along with when you walk into a room and they're all in there. They don't have to be overtly happy to see you, but they're happy that you're there.
Yep.
And whatever it is we're going to go do, I don't care. Just as long as we're there doing it together, it'll always be fun. that kind of thing. And it's more addicting than any kind of drug.
100%. And like, that was very, very attractive to me. One, like, you got the motorcycles. I always loved motorcycles. And then you got like these guys who are like packed together. Nothing's going to separate them. There's like,
They fight, they kill for each other.
They kill for each other, you know? And so that was attractive to me. And so, you know, these are my idols now. They became, I don't want to say my gods, but they were the influences in my life. And so trying to impress them and fit in, you know, I, you know, went from drugs to violence, you know, kicking in doors, doing, you know, and it was always justification. And even in prison, when I went on to prison and, you know, you have to, whack people or you have people removed or do all, it was always a justification, you know, and I think like it's different in your circumstances when you're like having to fight for a country and innocent people. Like I was making a choice and like criminal choice. It's different, but like
it's exactly the same though. And I tell everybody, all the guys like me, if you're an edge walker,
you could go one or two ways.
You go one or two ways, and we have built a place for your ass. Actually, two of them. You can go to the bad one, or you can come over on this side, and actually, we'll pay you to kick everyone's ass.
Yep.
We'll give you.
Which is where I wish I would have.
Oh, I wish you were there too. I wish every one of the guys that is in there right now knew this. Like, hey, I know what you're all about. I know what you're made of, man. We got a place for you. It's the baddest some bitches on the planet, and you will fit in here.
Yep.
But you got to earn it, and you would want that anyways, because even the gang members have to earn get in there.
Yep.
When they get jumped in, I mean, it's a thing.
Yep.
We do the same thing. We get our asses kicked, but man, the American people reward us.
Yep. You get paid.
And we get paid. And I mean, good.
You're going to wear the
travel everywhere and people recognize you and they thank you for it. Yep. Like, hey, I know you're one of my rowdy ones. Yep. I know you are.
Yep.
But you know what? You didn't have anybody kick your butt because a lot of them guys have to have their asses kicked into the right frame.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
Between the edge walkers, it's you've got someone that is instilling discipline and saying, okay, use this energy, all of this energy that you have, and go fight for this country, or you use it with no discipline and you go off the rails.
Every one of those alphas in the penitentiary, every one of them, if they had the discipline first, they wouldn't be in there. They'd actually be running stuff.
Yep.
Fortune 500 companies, they'd definitely be keeping all the youth in check.
Yep.
The problem is you got all our bulls caged up.
Yep.
And they did that to themselves. We do that.
Yeah, well,
we do that to ourselves. It's damn gnarly. You scare people when you walk around. You paint it up for a reason. We all understand. Men know what that means. That's like a sign on something dangerous.
Yeah,
that's what that is. But if you ever seen one of them dudes that has discipline, like a good guy, even though you know he's bad, they're the most amazing thing.
That's why they make.
They're so intimidated when they walk in the room, and the respect.
Yep.
And that's what every man wants. Like respect.
You're a perfect example of that.
And I had my ass kicked by men above me, the bad ones. I mean, the hardcore. I grew up in Huntsville, man. That's where the unit's at. Them dudes didn't play. I got out of check, even from the judges down to the sheriff, be like, you ain't coming in here. And they took me in there, and took me around to get me in this where I could see it.
Yep.
And they never stayed off of me. And I would pitch, man, I don't know what that is. I had no idea what that was inside of me. But you got to put men around them.
Yep.
And if the youth actually went into the pen and they knew that there was alpha men in there standing by to give them discipline, not how we're doing it now. You got ideas on that, but like it was a university. Like you're going in there, when you come out, you're going to be educated because you can't get out. What if we did that? What if we said, hey man, you not only have to do your time, but you can't come out of there without a degree.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. Like I have the most respected friends the brothers that I built while I was locked up. They got masters.
Yeah.
They're they did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hours of looking in the mirror, reflecting and just working on themselves. And so, I mean, it's wasted time. It's time that we deserve. But the ones that I respect the most are the ones that, take advantage of it.
So going back to you being 18, does your mom know that you're doing all of this? And she sees that you're buying things. She sees this lifestyle, but does she know that it's not because you're saving your money?
Yep. My mom, I've always had, my mom was 17 when she had me, right? So and then she wasn't there. And so my mom's always had, even if like I'm doing something wrong, she's gonna have my back, right? Like right, wrong, or indifferent.
Bro, that's a mother thing.
You know, and she's gonna have my back. And I remember like, I don't want to give up too many things, but there was a time where I had to go do something, and I'm like, I'd always like call her and like let her know like, hey mom, I'm gonna be off the grid for a little while, like don't know what this looks like, you know, but you know, there might be a phone call, I'm dead, or I'm in jail, right? And so I'd always meet up with her and give her a hug, and she'd give me her little 2 cents, try to talk me out of it, and that just was how it was. And I met up with her and she gave me a cattle prod. I'm like, Mom, what's that gonna do? She's like, I don't know. This just might. I'm like, no, like, but like she had my back. She knew I was gonna like,
How about that?
I was gonna do what I was gonna do. Like I think she realized like she wasn't gonna stop me. All she could do is pray for me and give her 2 cents. But I was gonna do what I was gonna do, right? She met me where I was at. And there was probably a lot of defects and things that she probably shouldn't have supported or done and put her foot down, but she did her best, right? I think there's no book in parenting, and so in the moment you do your best, and I was her firstborn and leading the way, and so we're learning together, right? So but she definitely did not support it. She's always there to you know, bail me out or you know, be by my side, you know, when you know, everything hit the fan. And so, yeah, I mean, fast, like it went, like I said, from just, you know, the drug stuff to the extreme violence. And, you know, during this time, like, you know, when you're living this life, you develop this mindset, like, you know, survival at all costs. Right. And like, you know, I'm not gonna be ever like, there's a thing that I learned after, but like the man box, right? Like, you know, and I'm never gonna be, this is how a man's supposed to be, men, you know, do this, say this, speak like this, react like this. You know, usually it's all violence and anger. Like anger was the only emotion like we're promoted to push. And so fast forward to my crime that led me to prison, February 23rd, 2012. I was sober for 7 months. Now things are really like, I'm deep into the criminal lifestyle at this time. Fast or rewind it back a
What
little
does that
bit.
mean? Like rolling with a Cadillac and a 50 cal and
Just, yeah, all of it.
the whole 9 yards, right?
You know, there's,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, thinking about like, I'm getting stuff, you know, I could call up cartel dudes and get, you know, 200 pounds of whatever dropped off and hand over no money and like draw, you know, bring it.
Right.
And like, but that pressure, like, you know, I would send, you know, $500,000 worth of dope across the country, and it's like, there's no money yet. Like I'm hoping everything goes well. And so it's like something goes bad, like I'm dead. Like
that's always there, right?
That's always there.
The pressure in that lifestyle is always
there.
That's
And so it's like,
it's got to wear you down.
Oh yeah, and that's
Make
why
paranoid. I mean, that's got to be worse than it's kind of like a drug.
It is.
Paranoia is actually a drug. You're just not taking it by your hand, man. It's like coming over the top of you.
Yep. And so like, that's why I was always partying. That's why I was like,
oh yeah,
you know, surrounding myself with like the party, because I didn't want to stop and think about like if something goes wrong, right? But then like you go out to clubs and it's like you see, like I remember like, you know, every room I walk in, I've always had this with me, like you're scamming it, you're sizing it up, you're sizing up the guys, like okay, like that's
just an alpha thing.
That's an alpha thing. This is my exit plan. This is like, if there's no exit, this is how we're gonna face the situation. And so it was real. I was like deep into it. And
yeah, because it consumes you, because you got to understand, man, that we were always going out into places where everyone's having a good time.
Yep.
Like that's what you're living in, the good time life 24/7, man. That can be tough.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, you're trying to keep up with like everybody else. And so, you know, financially, you're like, I gotta meet a certain quota in order to just be able to party and have keep the good time rolling.
So at the time, if you're owning things, like if you own a house and you've got the cars and everything, are you actually thinking logically about, okay, I have to make payments on this, I need to pay my taxes, or is all of that just out the window and you're thinking of today?
You're thinking about today. You have like big dreams and stuff. Like, I mean, essentially it is a business. So like you are thinking about all those things, but it's all how do you beat the system? Because nothing you're doing is legit.
Yeah, so it's never how can I better my community? It's like what am I going to be like the stuff we think about now.
I mean, it's stupid, right? But like, you know, you do the toy drives and you do some of the fun stuff, right? That's like you're giving back, but you know, you help individuals, you know, monetarily, or you spend some time with them, but you're not really thinking about impacting your community in the right way, right? Like you
can't, you got too much other stuff to think about.
Yeah.
At this point, or have you said that the motorcycle clubs was attracted to you? Did you delve into that, or was that just like a pipe dream?
So one of the things that like you can't ever really fully go in if you're on probation, like you have to kind of start with a clean slate, at least the folks that I was hanging around with. And so it was like, and I also knew like, you know, once you cross that line, like you're all the way in, right? And like I had a lot of selfish things that I was doing and that I wanted, and like I didn't want to give up. So like, you know, friends and very close associates, but like because of my probation and my, you know, what was on paper at the time, like that was going to always prevent me from running the program, was what they would call it. And then also like knowing that like there's some things in my life that I don't want to give up yet. It's like anything, right? Like, you know, you got to give stuff up if
it's a brotherhood and a family.
Yep.
I have brothers in every one of them. Every freaking one of them.
Yeah.
And they're more disciplined than you can even imagine. Don't think for 1 second that's a bunch of dudes just rolling around on motorcycles. That's not what that is, man.
No. I mean, it's you know, it's crazy because like I still am close, right? And like in with them, and you know, it's a beautiful thing because the loyalty, the bond, the brotherhood.
I appreciate that, man. I completely appreciate that.
And like that's if other communities and sectors like had that type of loyalty, had that type of commitment to their community.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. So how do we do that? How do you take the brotherhood that goes along in those packs, that all from the military all the way down to the 1%ers to all the gangs and stuff like that? How do you take that and we flip that to where, man, you're not doing stuff for a bad reason. You actually get up in the morning and go out to help everybody around you, and then they reward you.
Yep. And that's the thing. It's like,
how do we do that?
You know, it's a good question. And you see like some movies, like you think about like, you know, American Gangster, right? When he jumps out, he pulls up in the neighborhood, Thanksgiving, opens up the back of the truck, and the whole
turkey, whole neighborhood rolls right? in.
So like he's helping people out in the moment and they're helping the community, but there's also like this other side where, you know, there's the violence and there's the enforcing going on. And so like, reality of it is though, is like some of that, we live in a world, some of that has to be done.
This is a violent place,
right? Like we live, you know, survival of the fittest, and you can't let the weirdos and the funny stuff go on. And unfortunately, like law enforcement can't do everything. They don't know everything going on, and their hands are tied to do certain things or respond to certain things. So, you know, it's probably one of the hardest things.
How about that? They have to exist in order for the other side to exist. Then you have the world living in the middle of that.
Yep.
All of that spinning together.
Yep.
And and we balance that.
Yep.
Or we try to.
You can tell when it gets out of whack. You just brought up one of the hardest things to figure out.
Yeah, it is. That's probably our most difficult challenge.
Yep.
So going back to you were saying February, what,
23rd, 2012. Yep.
Yeah.
So shortly before that, all the folks that I was running with and had around me, like, Branden, like, you're a huge asset when you're sober, but you're the biggest liability when you start drinking, right? And so I committed. I had gotten in trouble. I've been on probation since I was 18. At the time, I'm like 22, 23, and I got in a fight with the undercover cop out at the lake, and crazy, you know, talk about you know, kind of lucky. I ended up getting thrown into a drunk tank in Napa County Jail, and they let me out because like they thought by releasing me at like 3 a.m. is gonna like be a punishment, and like I just grabbed a car and went to San Francisco. You know, I was like, oh, clubs are still open, right? Take me to the city, and but I didn't think I was gonna, because I didn't get no charges. And you know, a week later, my probation officer calls me and she's like, hey, like, we got to do something. And at the same time, like, all these other influencers are telling me like, dude, you need to stay sober, or like we got to figure this out. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna check into rehab, like that'll, fulfill the judge and probation, and also like it'll help me advance in this circle. And so I'm like, okay, like let's go to LA, right? And I didn't have the money, or wasn't going to spend the money to go to some places like Passages Malibu or anything. So I'm like, oh, let's, like, there's a bunch of free, like, spiritual recovery homes. And so I go down, commit to one, and I committed 1 year. It was Victory Outreach down in LA, Santa Ana. And they wanted me to commit to 1 year. I committed 1 year, and then like within first couple of days, I see like some of the guys have their cell phones and like are working the system. So I fall right into that, doing the same thing. And I didn't go for the right reasons. I want, one, because I had to, otherwise I'd probably go to jail. And two, like I wasn't fully ready to surrender ever, my addiction in this life. And so about a month after I went there, I got kicked out. But I was committed to being sober, right? And I was like, sober and had healthy habits in my life. I was working out. I was, doing all the healthy things, but I was still living a full-on criminal lifestyle. And so a few months later, about 6 months after that, is, February 23rd, 2012. And we were growing, me and Ryan we had a bunch of pot we were growing. I was up there at the property that he was staying at, that we were growing at together. And the pot, we were supposed to, there's like 50 pounds that were supposed to be ready, and it wasn't ready. And there was something going on that weekend. I wanted to get back home and get ready for, I think it was a motorcycle run or motorcycle event. And I remember we went to the gym in the morning, and I was like, dude, like, I'm just going to jam back and come back up here when everything's done. And he's like, no, just stay the night. Like, we'll have a good time. Right. And that saying, like, we're going to have a good time at all, it just haunts me every time I hear that and think about it. And so we went out to dinner that night with some of the folks that were trimming, and there were some girls that came out. And I remember sitting at the table, waitress is taking orders and everybody's ordering drinks, and I'm like, have this like internal conversation with myself, this like battle, like, Branden, don't do it, like, you don't need a drink. And they get to me like, what the heck, one drink ain't gonna kill nobody, right, or hurt nobody. So I ordered a drink, and within hours after that, I was arrested for murder.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So we went from there. When and one drink led to, like,
I must have missed something, man. I went from you having one drink to being in charge of murder.
Yeah. So we obviously had dinner, and then we went to the Safeway, grabbed a bunch of liquor, went back to the house. Everybody's partying, drinking, and I'm like right back in it. And there was some stuff that me and Ryan had going on, and I get pretty wasted, and me and him had a little disagreement, and one thing led to the next. He took a punch on me, and like, but at the time, I'm going to rewind just like to take it in more context. Like, I've always been someone of intuition and like that feeling. And I remember like thinking like, there's something ain't right in this house. Like, something, like, there's something funny going on. Right. And I told myself, like, Branden, like, you should probably just leave, like, go get a hotel, like, get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, remove yourself from the situation. But then the devil on my shoulder is like, nah, dude, you ain't running. You ain't going nowhere. There's a big ass buck knife right there on the end table. You know what I mean? Anything goes on, like, you got that, like, hey, you might die, but like, take someone with you. That was literally the conversation I had with myself. Right. And
you're drunk at this moment.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm drunk, but like, there's just bad intuition. People are acting weird. And then me and Ryan, kind of had some words, and he blasted, he punched me. And then, from there, it just kind of went into a blackout, and I grabbed the knife, and, ended up taking his life. And, in that moment, like, the world stopped, right? Like, because of my own issues, because of, the choice not to, continue getting help and work on myself. I removed a father from two young boys, and just, mom without her son. And
Yeah.
Who was Ryan to you? Was he just a childhood friend, or?
So we had known each other. We had known each other through like the kind of party community, criminal community I was in. We had known each other for about a year. We were we were friends. You read newspapers and stuff, and he was my best friend, and like we were friends, and but we also were doing business, and in that lifestyle, like, you could be friends, you could, have, something goes wrong and your best friend could become your enemy, right? And so, not that any of that has anything to do with me taking his life, and alcohol wasn't an excuse either. It definitely was a factor in my decision making that night.
Sure. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Man, you got to look at the human body as a cage, and whatever it's holding inside of that whiskey will get it out of there.
Yep.
Mhm.
I mean, it pulls down all safety mechanisms, all protocols. That's how it used to work in my head. You
Yep.
can feel it when you start putting that courage in there. Talking about, it just does. It's like rocket fuel for some guys.
Yep.
That's why they can't have it.
That
There's some of my boys, man, that's a Jekyll and Hyde. That's why they call that stuff wine and spirits. You put that back in the day, they would call it elixirs and potions because it'll bring something out.
Yep.
My father would always say, man, you want to interrogate somebody? You ain't got to beat them down. You don't got to scare them, get them drunk.
Yep.
Because they'll tell you whatever you want to know.
And people would always be like, I remember sitting on a plane last year, and I got upgraded to first class, and they hand out drinks right off the gate, and I thought she said sparkling water, and it was sparkling wine, right? And so I take a sip and spit it back in my cup as soon as it hit my lips. And the lady next to me, she's like, kind of chuckling, was like, "What? You didn't like it?" I make the joke, last time I drank, someone died. She's like, and I'm like, just joking.
But not really.
Um,
Now you have that.
Yeah.
Most people can't walk around with that one, bro.
Right. And, but like,
Weird stuff happens when I drink this, okay?
Yes. We're not, you don't want to, I'm just joking, but really.
So you're an opposite. You're a Jekyll and Hyde when you drink?
You
Or
know,
does
like
somebody-
9
are
out
you-
of 10 times, like we're having fun.
Fun, right? Yeah.
But like, it's also
One.
like that one time the destruction is so bad to where it's not worth the
Yeah.
other 9 times.
Well, and obviously, if other people in your life were telling you that you were great and reliable when you were sober, but
There's a reason.
yeah, there's a reason they're saying that if they're warning you not to drink anymore. So,
It's weird because when you hear them say it, it hits.
Yep.
mhm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it's because the ones that really love you, they'll watch you do it.
Yep.
Like, he'll be fine. He'll just kind of, and it's just
Well,
like,
they like you in some, they like,
well, yeah,
they
they like hanging out with you too.
they probably
like that part.
drink.
Yeah.
And so they're like, hey, like, like, even though could be crazy and we don't know what we're going to get into, like, it is still kind of fun, right? And so they're going to support it.
A lot of us like having those guys around, actually. Especially if you're out doing something. I grew up with them. I mean, they're a lot of fun. And we were talking about this earlier. With anything on earth, the human body has to learn balance with it. Because when we get into something, man, we'll normally go high speed, like drinking, just boom, let's see how far we can take this, man. And then you don't know what it does to you. And then the good ones can level out.
Yeah.
If I can drink 2 and I'm good, like, damn, dude, I never
Never figured that one out.
yeah, that wasn't in my brochure.
Well, it sounds like both of you are very alike in this. Is you just don't stop.
Yeah, I don't have any quit in me.
Yeah.
No,
So
team never quit, right?
Yeah. Marcus stopped drinking in 2021, and it's literally been the best thing that's happened to us, because I mean, the saying, like, there are just some people that it does not serve them to drink. It doesn't serve the people around them, and there's nothing good that comes out of it. If someone thinks, oh, they're fun, those aren't the people you should be hanging out with.
Yeah.
And the people that want you to drink are the ones that have problems themselves.
Yep.
It's always those people.
They feel better when
Yeah.
when you're wasted, like getting in trouble, and they're like,
Yeah, they
Well, it's a
can
lot of
talk
fun
about
too
you.
with each other.
Yep.
You can have that for sure. And I remember in the military, I was squared away when I wasn't drinking.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then when I would go out, I wasn't the liberty risk, but everyone else was at risk when I was on liberty
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
I just go hunting. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey man, and whatever your desires were, I'll bring them out of you. Like if I was drinking, you want to have some fun? Let's go. You want to
Yeah.
drive that thing fast? Let's go.
Yeah.
I was that guy. I couldn't. And that was why it was so powerful. The chiefs around me and my head chair were real powerful men. And they were always out there too.
Yep.
And they'd be like, get your butt back in the check. They just right to the edge. And just, I always had that. I was so fortunate.
And the crazy thing is, like, I look back and, you know, people are like, oh, the only time you've ever been in trouble or done something wrong is when you were drinking. No, it's the only time I've been caught,
Mm.
right? Is when I had alcohol on me. But like, you know, back to the people that were telling me to get help for, criminal motives, right? Sober Branden was like the guy you wanted to get stuff done, right? Like he's the guy that's going to be able to like keep you out of trouble and get whatever we need done, right? Like he's going to bring the entrepreneur side out of it. He's going to bring the balls to the walls out of it. Like everything you need, he's going to do it. But once he starts drinking, like there is no care. Like he'll get into it. I mean, I had a DUI. I got in a bar fight downtown, and this is when I was like 21. Get in a bar fight and go down, leave because it was like, all right, time to go. And so I go down to the liquor store and I'm, going and get a bottle of Jack, and I'm sitting there in the truck and I see the car that the dudes that I just fought, I see him drive by, and so I'm like, round two, right? And they call the cops, and I'm so drunk they drive right to the back of the police station. So I pull up to the police station.
That's a great story.
Hey, I pull up to the back of the police station. I'm not like I had some music blaring, took a swig out, sat it down, and jump out, and like obviously like my vision wasn't I thought I'm gonna go fight these guys, right? Well, it's a handful of cops coming out of the
hell, I thought I was kidding. Turned out to be a tiger.
Yeah, so I didn't win that battle. Got a DUI luckily I put on such a scene that they didn't care to look in the car, and I remember the next morning I called my dad. I'm like, hey dad, you got to go get the truck down at the police station. He's like, should I know anything? I'm like, well, we're not going to talk over this, but just go pick the truck up. And it might have been a good thing had they searched the truck. And there's so many times where I could have been sent off to prison for something other than taking someone's life. Obviously that wasn't the plan. But yeah, could have. I skated by one on that one, but that was the type of guy I was when I was drinking.
So what's going through your mind when the police are there telling you, like, do you realize in the moment when you did take his life that that's what happened, or was it just a blackout and you wake up and realize, oh shit, I did something wrong?
Yeah, I think, it's one of those things that there's different levels, and we process and kind of filter and go through, acceptance is a process sometimes, right? And, as soon as the act itself was done, because obviously like there's times, and that wasn't the first time that, when I was drinking and I got like into something, like I just go into a rage, right?
So that's what I was going to ask you. So were you enraged or were you calm? Because if you're enraged, that's two different people.
I was enraged. Like, gotcha. I just get blasted in the alcohol. And so I just go into a rage. And then like, there was a couple other guys that came off the couch that were his side. And so like, I got hit in the head with the shovel, the little fireplace shovel. And so it's like, but back to that, like that voice in my head, like something bad's going to happen. And you're going to have to fight. Right. And so just went in a rage. But as soon as like everything was done, it just was like there's this like I just knew something bad, I'd done something bad. And I remember there was one of the guys who I knew, he was like over in the corner just like deer in headlights, just looking over and at everything. And I just got up and like seen the keys and it's like, I need to leave, obviously, and ended up getting in a high-speed chase, like leaving, and got in a high-speed chase for a couple hours. And at that time, like the adrenaline's pumping, and I actually wrote a letter to my mom about it, like, the one last hug, right? Because like I got hit, like blood's all over me, like the adrenaline's going, like I don't know like exactly what anything's happened to me. And so I'm like, I'm just going to drive to my mom and give her one last hug, because I'm either I'm dead one way or another, right? Whether I've been, like I haven't even looked to see if I had got stabbed or like what happened. I just knew I was covered in blood. And so I called her and was like, you know, obviously like the alcohol and stuff's like kind of kicked in. And so I was like definitely slurring my words, but I was like, I'm just gonna come, you know, I'm trying to get to you. And she was like 3 hours away. So the police kind of they got behind me probably within like 20 minutes of me driving. And yeah, I just remember like, man, like that was the longest. It felt like I was driving across the country, you know, when them cops got behind me, and I'm like,
You were like one of those TV moments.
man, like
How many you got behind you? All of them?
all of them. There was like 3 or 4 helicopters. Like there was
Oh
like
my
3
gosh.
That's a
different
good one.
counties.
So did you kill this dude dead?
Yeah, he's
Like on the spot dead?
Yep.
Check.
Yeah, and so you know, I ended up, you know, I just remember like, man, like, should I just kill myself? Like, is there a way like I could just like take myself out, right? So like they don't have to like arrest me. You know, I remember going over bridges, like, you know, could I just
Death by
like pull
cop.
over and jump? You know what I mean? And like,
So all that's running through your head?
yep.
I was gonna ask you, man, you listen to the radio? Do you have the window
No,
down?
I'm talking to my mom.
Oh, the whole time?
Yep. Yep.
Check.
And like this is like your mom's love for her son. She calls dispatch and like tells them like, because you know, there's this thing like the only people that get shot by cops are, you know, people of color and stuff. And that's not the case. And so like
That's not true at all.
that's not true at all. And you know, I was a perfect candidate to get shot,
Yeah.
right? And so my mom knew that. And so my mom called dispatch and got on and like let them know like he doesn't have a gun. And like, you know, it popped up on the news and like we're watching. And so like she kind of like fighting for
She was
me.
watching you on the TV?
Yep.
And talking to you.
And talking to me.
Yeah.
And so long chase, I went through some spike strips and the car just stopped rolling, right? Like blew it up. And I remember they sicked the dogs on me. It's funny because a couple shepherds got me, tore up my leg, and that's
They
what
come in the car with you?
Huh?
They come in the car with you?
I jumped out.
Oh,
I
check.
jumped out of the car and they sicked the dogs on me and they hauled me down. And we have that's what we have as shepherds and Malinois. And so my wife's like,
God.
like, isn't that like, why do you have these dogs? Like, I'm like, I got a personal bond with them.
Those two right there.
Yeah.
Those two especially.
Oh my-
And
They'll get
so,
your ass, man.
like, yeah, I go to the hospital. They take me to the hospital, obviously. And, you know, no one's telling me, the cops aren't telling me why I'm being arrested, but I know like it's over. And, they finally get me up to the detective's office and they're like, you know, we're arresting you for murder. And I'm like, all right, like that's it. And so then I go on the journey of jail and prison and, you know, figuring out if I'm ever going to come home.
How long did they give you from what did they give you?
They arrested me for murder, first degree murder, which is 25 to life. But then, you know, I fought my case for almost 2 years, and the district attorney agreed that it was a manslaughter case.
They gave you manslaughter.
Yep. And they actually offered me 7 years, but with 2 strikes. And I was like,
That was your second one, your third one.
that was my first one. I hadn't had any strikes at the
Roger
time.
that. Yeah.
But I'm like, you know, I'm going off to prison. Like, I know what prison's gonna bring. Like, you know, having 2 strikes over your head, like all it takes is one more and you're done, right? You're removed from society. And so when they offered me that deal, I'm like, asked my mom, and my mom's like, nope, we'll take more time with 1 strike. So I ended up taking 11 years with 1 strike because I knew that probably not done fighting and I'm going to be in prison where, you know,
You can get one in there.
oh yeah. And so,
And that's academy in there,
yeah,
man.
and so which happened like down the road, like I
Yeah.
ended up getting more time and you know, through violence. So like they would have struck me out. I would have got.
Did you jump back into the life in there?
So now I'm, you know, I'm fighting. I remember, and I'm just going to share this. I remember about 3 days after, like the dust settled, right, and I realized like this is a nightmare. Like I'm fighting. I took Ryan's life. You know, this is real. I had this vision and just this reality of like I'm gonna use this to help people live, so, you know, be sober one day, right? I'm gonna use this, and whether it's in prison and I do life, but like I'm gonna help other men and people, you know, live their best life through sobriety. And then I just started dreaming about having a rehab, and obviously that's you know what we're doing today, which we'll get into it. But I remember, you know, talk about like bringing the God part into it, probably about 35, 40 days after everything happened. Every time I like try to go to bed at nighttime, And I've been in like all the things, every time I close my eyes, all the like harm, the harm and pain that I've caused, like just would just fill up my mind.
Yeah.
And every time, and I just was hard to sleep. Mentally, I was just kind of broken, didn't have God in my life. So spiritually, like, not developed, nothing there. And I just like, I was like, man, like, I don't want to do this, right? Like, this isn't what I want. So thinking of, the mental health aspect of it, like, the suicide thoughts, and it was like, like, no, like, I'm not just going to do that. Like, go get into it. The cop, make them kill me, right? Not, justify like doing it a different way. And I remember telling, like, I just would keep that in. I wouldn't talk to nobody about it because I wasn't ever allowed to talk to that. I didn't have, didn't know that was okay as a man to talk about your feelings. And I shared it with my mom, and I shared it with my mom, and she's like, honey, like, you need to pick up a Bible. And like, I've heard that before, but for whatever reason, I get off that payphone in county when I shared this with her, and I go over to the book cart, grab one. And later that evening, I opened it up, and immediately there was this comfort over me. And I was like, wow, like, this is real. And so that, I didn't obviously become a Christian in that moment or anything, but I'm like, okay, like, this is my new routine. I'm gonna pick this book up and find my comfort and peace in this hard situation. So, go off to prison, get sentenced 11 years, one strike. Obviously in that sentence, in that courtroom, I had to, one of the hardest things I had to do is look at his family and try to, the judge gives me an opportunity to say something, and there's no words I could say. So it's like, my life moving forward is committed to preventing this from happening and helping other people, stay away from this road, this life. And hit prison, and I knew prison was like,
Which one?
Huh?
Where we at?
So I went from county, I went to Tracy, which was the old, like, it's the reception center, which was like the gladiator school. And then from there I went to Corcoran, to Pleasant Valley, and then down to San Quentin.
Made Quentin, huh?
Yep.
They write songs about that place, man.
They write songs about that place. It's not as bad as it's not as what it was back in the day, but at least today it isn't. But like, like, I'm not going to use alcohol and drugs, but like, I'm still like committed to this lifestyle. And so remember, I came in, like, when I hit reception and they check your paperwork, make sure you're not, a weirdo or sex offender or any of that stuff. Like, they're assuming that, like, I've been in the system. And now I didn't ever lie. And I always, like, I'm a first termer, right? And there's the thing, but like, you look apart, you feel apart. I've always had that, like, leadership, that alpha. And so, a lot of men in prison, there's a lot of strong guys, but there's a lot of weak individuals too.
Yeah.
And so, like, I manipulated that and put myself immediately, which is probably the worst, was the wrong thing, but put myself in the circles of the leaders, of the shot callers, because, I knew survival is like, if I'm,
you hear that growing up.
Yeah. If I'm making the calls, then the shot ain't going to be called on me. And,
Right.
If I'm not, like, I'll put in my work and do what I have to, but, and so, like, I made that decision to, like, jump in and play that game, which, there was a lot of stress that went with that, a lot of decisions, a lot of, really just a lot of stress.
Can you go in there and do your time without having to deal with all that?
So you can, like, this is the rule of thumb, for whites and for the Hispanics, and, every race has different politics, but with the whites and
we separate in there.
we separate. Yep. There's no eating with another race. There's no playing sports with another race. They, that right off the gate. If you don't know that on your way, like, once you get off the bus, like, okay, you got to get in where you fit in.
Here's your embryo.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
there is a feeling in certain environments when a man walks in there, you know exactly what's going down.
Yep.
It's like in school or even in there. Man, there doesn't have to be a fight going down physically for you to know that there's one about to.
Yep. Yep.
You feel that, and when you get trained or you go back into the cage, man, those instincts come back out of a man.
Yep.
We try and calm those down. The more civilized we get, you want to sharpen them suckers. Go back in there.
Yep. And it's funny you say that. So I remember, the first time I hit the yard, it was actually my second day at yard. The whites and the South Siders. So like each race has their ally that they mess with, right? And so the Southern Hispanics was our ally with the whites. And so we were playing a little softball game, right? And anytime I could play sports, like I would, as long as it was with our race and was allowed. And like I'm out here playing softball, and it's like we're maybe like 20 minutes in, and the whole energy of the yard just changes. And I started looking around and like seeing everybody like trying to like, not look, but look, right? And sure enough, two white dudes are just stabbing the hell out of this dude right in his neck.
Oh my
Blood's going everywhere.
gosh.
And they were skinheads, and he was a Jewish dude, right? He was a Jewish gay dude that was, on the yard that no one knew about until then. That's why they were whacking him. He wasn't a, sex offender or any of that, but he's a homosexual, and he was a Jewish, and these guys obviously are skinheads, and that's what they're doing. I remember seeing this, and the dude didn't die, but he was bad. It was
Yeah, he
bad,
did.
right?
Yeah.
And they came out, they put him in the ambulance, and obviously we were all laid out, and 20 minutes later, ambulance clears. They do a little weapon search. Didn't find anything, and boom, program normal. Softball games
Back
normal.
to the game.
My
I'm like-
gosh, that's
I'm like,
terrifying.
Okay, this is it. And I'm like, two things. I'm never gonna do that. And then when I realized, like, I do my like asking around, without trying to be too nosy, and like realize like this is how the skinheads get out. And so then I see like all these like to your point, the just regular white guys made a decision trying to get education, getting targeted by the skinheads. I'm like, yeah, no, like I've always been against bullying. And so I made even another push to get to the spot where, I'm calling the shots, and no one's, on at least at that prison's above me. And so strategically, just every place I went, I try to eliminate the skinheads, because, the way I seen it is, they always were the biggest dope dealers, or dope users, not dealers, which like in their philosophy, they're supposed to be purity, like all about, purity, and not, putting stuff in your system. And they're the biggest hypocrites, and they were the like best friends with the Mexicans, so I just seen like most of them were fake, and they were weak. And they were the bullies. They would go after like the guy that came in for DUI, that just was a business guy, had family. They'd go bully him. And so, that was like my, and it just, I'd always, have issues with those guys, and try to, as we had to run a certain program, things have to be done, but like you try to keep the peace as best you can. I think it's like any type of, fight that you're constantly in, you try to keep the peace, but when issues come up, you deal with them in the best way, and keep going. That's prison. It's always going to be like that, until there's not those types of prisons. So
Well, you can't get anything fluid either. Guys are coming in and out of there.
guys are coming in and out, and
The
so
fear factor and the anger factor is always in there.
Yep. And so to your point, like you could go in, you could get sentenced to some time, and you could go in, but just know that like you're probably gonna have to like, put in some work. Your days are, you're gonna probably have to go do a 2-on-1 at the minimum, which is the way you remove, someone that needs to be removed, unless it's and so with that, you'll go to the hole for 30 days, you'll come back, and that's your commitment to your race, right? That's you saying, I acknowledge the fact that I'm here, I'm for you guys. Then you keep your head down, and there's a good chance your name may never called. You can just run your program, because there's always knuckleheads that are messing up that have to be put on deck.
Starting a new year always feels like a chance to hit reset, whether it's in your goals, your habits, or even your finances. If tackling debt is on your list, Navy Federal Credit Union has your back. Right now, they are offering a 0% intro APR on credit card balance transfers for 12 months. Imagine how much lighter life could feel like without interest piling up. And here's a bonus. If you spend $2,500 in your first 90 days with a Cash Awards or Cash Awards Plus card, you'll get $250 back. That's extra cash put right back in your pocket. It's the perfect time to take charge of your finances. Go visit NavyFederal.org to get started. They're all about helping out their members and helping them succeed, and they're federally insured by the NCUA. Start fresh, go make progress, and take that first step today at NavyFederal.org.
Right. And so like I seen a lot of guys that never had to do anything. And so like you can get in, and now there's programs, and there's prisons for the guy that wants a program, and there's prisons for the guy that wants to play politics.
Really, they got that now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so, by the grace of God, like I never got in any trouble while I was at all the prisons until I got to San Quentin. So 2015, late 2015, I showed up to San Quentin. The prison I wanted to go to because they had a college program and a baseball team that plays civilian teams.
That's right.
And so I get there, and it's a whole different environment. Dorms, and everybody's out together. Races are playing with each other. It's like a men's camp, like volunteers walking around, like women coming on, like just like culture shock. And at the time, my grandma was diagnosed with the rare lung disease. They gave her 6 months to live. She was like one of my, heroes. I'm in San Quentin, which is like 15 minutes up the road from Petaluma. So I'm thinking I'm going to get all these visitors. And so, you always find out who your best friend, who your true friends are when you go away. And so life was just hard, and everybody, because of, the reputation that I was, built, the bad reputation, like everybody's always trying to, oh, you want a drink, you want this, you want that. And I, no, gave in, took some of the prison made whiskey.
What's that stuff even taste like, bro?
It's bad.
Is it bad?
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's strong.
What is it?
Degreasing parts
Huh?
and killing brain cells, right? Know what they're saying?
Yeah. So, I relapsed, right? I had about 3.5 years sober, but at these other prisons, there's no programs. There's no self-help. Church and AA are like the only things you get, and you get action at them like once or twice a month. And usually that's where you meet up with the other yards, and that's where everything's passed. So it's really not used for church or used for recovery. It's used to, pass messages off and keep the system running.
But San Quentin worked it out though.
San Quentin got a good program. And so I get there, but like, I've developed this prison belief system that like, this is how you operate.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh yeah. And there's like weirdos, like people aren't checking paperwork. And so there's like, I say weirdos in the fact, like, today I'm not looking at them as weirdos, like as a Christian, like,
I get it, bro.
I'm not trying to pass judgment, but like in contents, like,
what's the other word you can use for that? Right? There's a bunch of them. I know exactly what you're saying.
There's a bunch of them, right? But like,
yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what? Like, I can't, I'm not going to do the rest of my time here. And the only way to leave a prison is through violence. You can't, like, I remember my grandma always telling me, just go talk to your counselor. Grandma, these aren't counselors like that, right? That's not what it's about, right? And, she'd always be like, did you talk to your counselor, Grandma? You'd see the counselor once a year unless you're in trouble, right? And so I made a choice. There's a dude that, had some funny paperwork. And so I'm like, all right, like gonna pack up and get shipped out of here. And so I went and you stabbed him. And in the process, I went to the bathroom to try to get rid of the weapon, and the cops came and I ended up getting into it with one of the officers. And that's a big no-no. And so for that, they end up putting me into the hole. And then they gave me a DA referral for battery on staff, which they were looking at like 8 to 12 years.
And you can't mess with them.
No, like they didn't care about the inmate on inmate stuff, right?
You can't mess with a guard though, man. That thin gray line. Y'all are serious about that too, right? I'm right about that.
Yep. Yeah.
I've always heard that.
In another, because it was in a dorm, there was no gun tower.
Yeah.
And so because there's no gun tower, they couldn't shoot me. And like any other prison, if I'd done that, I would have got shot with the Mini 14, easy. Because like the first dude I blasted, and it was on, and
did you just hurt them or?
No, like the first guy who came in, like you got to think like I just did this and I need to get rid of this weapon so I can't get charged for that. That's where my mind's thinking, not thinking like, but if I put my hands on this guy, it's even worse.
It does go to a singularity thought when you're in that kind of moment.
Yeah. And so I'm saying it is like trying to paint the picture because everything happens for a reason. And had I been at another prison, had this happened outside of the dorm on the yard, I would have been shot with the Mini 14 dead. And so, you know, they tuned me up. I got beat up a handful of times. And this is where I was earning respect, even though I was being punished by the administration and the prison staff, because they're whooping me. And I'm just like, take me to my cell. You know, like, you need medical? Nope, just give me to my cell. And they put me in the hole. There was a bunch of drama going off there. I had this crazy story where talking about like praying to God. Like we were in ADSEG, we were having a lot of drama with the Hispanics, and I was the only white guy, and there was 13 essays, right? And so they put me out on the yard early one day, and I found the day before out on the yard, I found this piece of, I'm just like digging in the crack because it was like wintertime, and I was up against a wall. You got to go to yard mandatory, so it's pouring. And I'm digging in a little crack, and I pull out this piece of metal like this big, like a bone crusher from the 80s. This thing had been there forever. And I was like, holy moly, like this thing's gonna like.
I want to put that there.
This thing will kill somebody. And if you have this in your hands, that dude in the gun tower is gonna shoot you. And I'm like, and you can't just like, hey, officers, like I found this.
Look
right?
what I found.
Like, yeah, you don't do that, right? And so I'm like, holy moly. And I can't get it back in the crack. And so I'm like, put up my jacket sleeve. And I'm like, found a spot for it. And I'm like, okay, like I got to hide this so the Mexicans can't find it because there's drama with us. And so I remember like the fog came in, and I went to a medical ducket, and then they dropped me off on the yard early. And so the rest of the guys haven't come out yet. And then the fog came in, and I remember like pacing. And then when I found a spot to put this knife, that I was like, man, like you got to work this out, God. Like this could be all bad, right?
When you say fog, you mean one of those good clouds that sits in there and you can't see.
Yep. And so they locked the prison down,
right?
So they pull me in before they release everybody, and then at that time, some stuff like everything had caught up, and they're like, we're going to transfer Branden over to the Adjustment Center, which is the Hole for Death Row, the most secured housing unit in the state, and that's where. It was scary, like kind of a little freaky. They're taking me from a regular solitary confinement housing unit to the Hole for California's death row. And I go in this place, and it's like you just could feel
death in there.
Death.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think there was like 53 guys in there at the time, all of them, you know, multiple murders, if not like serial killers. Just quiet. You could hear a pin drop.
Not allowed to talk in there or do anything, right? Or nobody talks anyway.
No one talks, right? Like you get a 4 a.m. shout out and a 4 p.m. shout out, right? And outside of that, it's quiet. And
is it dark?
No, it's not dark. You get the sun coming in, but it's just creepy. Just creepy vibe.
Death's there.
Death. And
I got an odor.
Oh yeah, it's
friggin' odor. You know when she's around.
And at the time, when the officers would do their every 20-minute walk, they would walk in riot gear. They didn't want you to see human contact, right? And there was like sally ports in between the cell doors. Like it was a different type of housing unit.
So what are you thinking when they put you in that?
Like, you know, just like why?
What'd I do? Yeah, why'd I do?
Why? And then like, man, like this is like, you know, because you hear stories, right? Like back to that paranoia and like always like, you know, trying to prepare for you hear these stories of like officers popping doors. Like there was a thing, the Green Wall, which was like the correctional staff gang that's known. It's probably the biggest gang in the California prison system, and it's cops. And down in Corcoran at Pelican Bay, where the shoes were, where the big holes were, they were cracking doors. in betting on these guys to fight, right? Like different
Yeah.
races. And so like you
I've heard
hear
that.
these stories all the time, right? And so I'm like,
They make
man,
movies about them.
they make movies about them. And like I'm hearing, I'm like, man, like I'm like surrounded by killers, right? Like, you know, like there's always just this like extra like stress or
Yeah.
like
What was
you
that
know,
movie came out? Felon.
Felon, yeah. And the best one I think is Shot Callers. If you ever want, Shot
know it.
Callers is like the most authentic movie I've
Dude,
seen.
all of our generation brushed up on prison movies, gangster movies,
Yep.
all that.
Yep.
Training Day. You freaking go through the numbers, especially for y'all over there.
Yep.
But I didn't know anything about your life. And then in the 90s, when we all came crashing together and all the hip hop and then
Yep.
LA prison gangs and everything like that, man, I got a
Shawshank Redemption.
full
Yeah.
freaking
Yep.
education in that.
Everyone our age saw Shawshank.
Shawshank. Yep.
That was just
Morgan Freeman, Scott.
Yep.
yeah. So real quick, while you're in this, are you, at this point, because at the previous unit you were in, you had opened the Bible. At this point, are you praying? Or do you know scripture? Is that any part of your life?
Yep. So I called myself today. I look back, I was a closet, cowardly Christian because I was reading my Bible. I was doing what I was supposed to do every morning, but like it wasn't leaving the cell. It wasn't leaving me. And so they put me in the adjustment center. And this is a story where God uses anybody. So they put me in the adjustment center. We go to yard 3 days a week, do your mandatory workout. And then, depending on how much time left, whoever's in, because you're in dog cages, you're not on a group yard. You have small talk or you have conversations. And so I had nothing, I say I have nothing to relate to, but I really didn't fit in. Like I had respect from the guys. But there was this guy named Stomper. His name's Todd Givens. They call him Stomper. He'd always get put next to me. And the most violent, scariest guy on death row or in the California prison system, both the prison population and the staff would contest to.
So he's our most dangerous man.
Yes.
Tell me his name.
They call him Stomper. His name's Todd Givens. He had like
white dude.
Like 7 confirmed kills. Went on this just crazy story. Don't want to get too off topic, but like he was fully committed to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we get done with our workout, and he's like, we start talking. He's like, man, what do you want in life? And it was May 21st, 2016. He's like, man, what do you want in life? He's like, and didn't even let me, interject. He's like, man, because you have, everybody's telling you got to do this, you got to do that. Like I'm looking at a bunch more time, and if they let me back out on San Quentin, like I got to commit violence again, and just like I'm in this revolving door of violence in politics now. And he's like, what do you want in life? He's like, is this what you want? Like, or do you want to get out there, enjoy your family? Like, one day get out of prison, and make a life for yourself? Or, is this what you want? You want to be a prison tough guy? You want to be a bad dude? Because if so, get out there and kill everything and come back here with me. Come back here with us. Because this is where the worst is. This is where all the baddest are. And he's all, but if you have an opportunity, take advantage of it. Because if I could go back to my 14-year-old self, before I joined a white power gang and put all these tattoos on, I would. But I don't have that choice. I have 3 death sentences. I'm fully committed to this. And like I got this dude who's like, he's giving me this pep talk, kind of like ministering to me. And then I go into my cell that afternoon, I'm praying. My younger brother, Benny, his birthday's the next day. And so I'm really thinking about him. He has Asperger's. And he was struggling. Benny was struggling. And Benny was like my kid brother, right? Until I got locked up. I'm thinking about Benny. And so I'm praying to God for Benny. Like God, help him, heal him, just help Benny. And I hear this thunderous voice scream at me like, what are you going to do for me? What are you going to do for me? And it just comes crashing down on me. God's just challenging me, calling me out right now. Like, you're always asking me for something. You're always praying when you're in one of these situations. But what are you going to do to me? And it wasn't a question I needed to answer. It was him telling me like, dude, you need to give me your addiction. You need to surrender your life to me because you can't manage it. You continue to find yourselves in these types of situations. Give your life to me. Because a lot of rookie Christians that I call them, like, we're always going to God when we need help. financially, God, like can't make rent, like, you know, or pay the bills. Like I need a new job. Like my family has cancer. We're always praying for, asking for something. And, you know, I don't think there's this discipline in Christians where we're going to God to one, like thank him, but then most importantly, asking him, like, how do we serve you? Right. And so he just like challenged me. And so I get out of this prayer, I'm walking back and forth, like, I don't want to make this promise. Like God's the only fearing thing there is. And like, I don't want to make a promise I can't keep, because there might be a day I get out of prison. I want to, you know, take a sip of some whiskey, or, you know, all these scenarios are going through my mind, and I'm like trying to justify why I can't make this promise. And then it dawns on me, like, what do I have to lose? Like I make this promise, like this could be a lifetime of like fulfillment. So I get on my knees, May 21st, 2016, promise God never use alcohol again. From that day I've been delivered, right? I had 8 to 12 years hanging over my head, should have been shipped to Pelican Bay, like up on the Oregon border, the worst prison at the time. Stayed at San Quentin, all these barriers and roadblocks I had. Shouldn't have stayed at San Quentin, because the rule of thumb is you don't, when you have an assault on staff, you can't stay at the same prison as that guy.
Yeah.
Right. Or officer. The dude was he was a reserve, a Navy reserve. And so
Got called away.
I told, when I went to committee, I told the warden, I said, man, like that wasn't mine. Like you guys weren't intended to be involved in any of that. You know the situation. And I was like, I apologize, and let me speak to him. So that the guy, the officer came back, and I was able to apologize. And the inmates were judging me, like, why you like, man, like, it's not what it's about. Like, I'm going to be accountable. And that wasn't my, you know, it's the right thing to do. Like blue or green, like I'm going to always do what's right. And so because of how I handled it, and because I didn't cry about the whooping they gave me, I think is one of the reasons. But it goes further. The captain who gave me the opportunity, because I told them at committee, I said, give me one chance. I'll show you guys what rehabilitation looks like. Give me one chance to stay here, because they could have shipped me out. Like I should have. So I ended up staying. But this pastor, so my mom, after I committed my crime, I took Ryan's life. She's now a mom that, you know, bore a murder, right? She goes to a church, random church down the road from the house, asked this if she could pray for her son if there's a pastor. So this pastor's like, yeah, they go and pray. And he's like, she just got up and left, never seen her again. Right? She must have felt the comfort and knew everything was going to be okay after that. Because that's how my mom's always been. And she just like, she'll be struggling and then prays, and boom, like it's going to be okay.
Women are powerful like that.
Yep.
You got a good cry in, dude. Everything's good.
It's good.
Weird.
Right?
We don't have that.
No.
You know, we didn't get
that's
that.
That's why we need them around.
Yeah. That's right. There's a few things that they have, we don't.
Yes, and we need.
Yeah, we need it.
And so,
because just seeing it makes you just.
Yep.
For
this
a man,
this pastor was ministering and taking this captain who had my fate in his hands, was like taking him around the world doing ministry with them.
Yeah.
Right. And so fast forward, you know, I get out of that, and now I haven't worked on myself. So I dive into all these programs San Quentin offers, you know, and really just, you know, go to work and start working on myself. And then back to that entrepreneur, that leader in me, like I'm seeing like, okay, what's missing? Like, how can I start, you know, supporting these groups? Actually, how can I start, especially around sports? You know, how can I start some of my own groups and really, you know, help, you know, build things that help these men. And I started doing these tours. You know, there was like 7 or 8 of us that when the public would come in, we do Q&As and walk around the prison. And the officer, Lieutenant Robinson, he's actually just retired out here to Texas. He was like, he's seen something in me that like he wanted me a part of that, right? And gave me this chance. And so Bob I get called. I do a tour, and you never do 2 tours a day. It's just not normal. And so I do a tour. I get back to the cell, and I have 3 guys come to me like, Branden, there's a tour. There's a tour in the chapel. Well, I'm saying that voice because the 3rd guy was my buddy Rocky. He was Vietnamese, and he's like, Branden. And I was like, what, dude? I'm trying to get coffee. I did a tour, been out of the cell all day. He's like, chapel, tour. I'm like, Rocky, no, captain. I'm like, captain, like that's not lieutenant, right? And so I'm like, all right, Rocky, I'm heading out. And I come walking in, I'm late, and the captain who was in my committee and gave me this chance few years prior was like, get up here. And there's three dudes. Like, it's not a big tour. There's 3 dudes. And it turned out to be Miles Adcox, Bob Goff, and then this other guy who after walking around, come to find out he's this pastor from Petaluma that knew the captain. He's been ministering. But I didn't know until a couple days later, because I tell my mom and my wife everything after, at the end of the night. And my mom runs into this guy at the Starbucks and is like, hey, you were at San Quentin the other day. Do you remember me? And it's like, no. It's like, years back, I came in and prayed with you for my son. And the other day you met him. And he's like, what the heck? It was like, so like, 8 years, it had been 8 years. And like, he comes in and connects with me. And so, from that day though, me and Bob started working on his dream big at San Quentin. And so then the Robertsons came in shortly after, and like, just count so many people, so many opportunities would come to me into that prison. And, like when I came in this morning and met you, right? Like, I don't know how many people have hit me up like, that guy's my hero, right? Like, that guy's my hero. And I'm talking like ex-wardens, people in the governor's office, law enforcement, my other friends who've done time in the military. They're like, I'm sitting here like, man, like, why did God give me this opportunity when they should? Like, I've done nothing but like bad things. But like, that's where it's like God's had his favor on me. And like, obviously, like all those times I should have been to prison for other things, but I went for this thing. Like, there's a reason. And so, just, yeah.
Wow.
Like, it pushed us far enough to the edge to get us where we needed to be. Like, that's how deep you had to go to start where you needed to be.
Yep.
And I
Rock
had to go,
bottom.
you know what I mean? And then you're in those moments on the in-between because you hadn't reached the bottom.
Yep.
You're like, hey man, how do I keep, I'm trying to be good.
This is a crazy thing. I wrote a little thing yesterday. I remember when we watched, so you don't get good TV in prison. Now they got tablets. It's actually a good time to be a prisoner.
Oh my God.
I love your optimism. I mean, hey, you got to keep it, bro. I'm with you, they got I got your back, boys. Stay strong in there, man.
But they don't ever get, like, you get, once a week they put 2 new movies on the institutional channel. And, when you get a good movie, it's over in 2 or 3 hours, right? And so I remember when Lone Survivor came on, and my bunkie, Chase, who's like my kid brother too, he's serving life. He came in at 18, and I just like put him in a headlock and been mentoring him and loving on him since. And we lived together for 5 years until I came home. And he's like same exact. He went to the recruiter and committed, but then he got linked up with the outlaw motorcycle world and got on probation, couldn't get out of it. And so like just a diehard, he's like a soldier, tried and true, just never actually went and served.
Yeah.
And I remember when we watched that movie, and when you got pulled out in the movie, when you got pulled out and you finally were rescued, it was like, man, like that guy could endure that. Like, we got this. Like, we done put ourselves.
That's how you got to think.
And so it was like this mindset. Like, and you have to develop mindset, but like, it was, stories like yours that would keep us going. Right. And like, the unfortunate part is we don't have in it, like, you don't have the positive side of it. Right. There's all this negative, all these choices that you've made, but like, it's still inspiring and it's so relatable because you're rock bottom. The only way out is through and up.
I put myself in there. I did that to myself. Mm-hmm. Same as y'all. It's just different walk. Yep. Just right beside each other. Same type of dude.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of guy. It absolutely is. And when you go into when they put you in prison, man, you go in there with that negative. It's be impossible finding positive out of there. But if you can somehow find that and start just pushing back, just the way you carry yourself, just like you said, that's how you got to do it, man. It's easy for us to break.
Yep.
It's like what happens is, man, is did you get broken down? Did you get broke open? Because if you get broke open, then something else is going to come out, which is going to be stronger. Yep. You don't come out of that Gladiator Academy. You don't come out of what I did weaker.
Yep.
You may have had your ass whipped in there, man, but the day you get out, there's a strength.
Yep.
And we all acknowledge that.
Yep.
Man, every human being knows some of the things that what men have to go through just when you hear it. Like,
I think and correct me if I'm wrong though, I think the strength the long lasting strength comes in the healing process. Like you get through it, you take your lickings, but then like when you stop and like really process and think about it, then you're reminded like, holy moly, like I am capable of anything. I do have like the ability to overcome anything.
Yeah.
But like in it, sometimes you're just like, man, like you're going so fast and like you don't stop and think about it. And sometimes people like yeah, you gotta stop and really process it and get through some of the traumas of it. Like, man, like that didn't feel good, but like it built me to be better, built me
It's
stronger.
with anything.
Yep.
Like when people go into the gym, look, when they're in there lifting weights, they look like they're in pain. They're screaming. They're sweating. The stuff's heavy. They don't feel good. Man, they look cool later.
Yep.
That stuff comes later. If you're going in for some superpowers, let me tell you something. When you're getting them, it's not fun.
Yep. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. That's how you know you're getting them.
Yep.
I mean, if you wanted something to make a feeling, that's how guys know. Like, hey, man, I earned this.
Yep.
And the minute you step out of that and a human being recognizes you for carrying that, then it's kind of like it just got tacked in. Because then there's a feeling that goes with it.
Yes.
Like, oh, okay, not only do I feel this way, but you just recognized me for feeling this way.
Yep.
And then that's when that power comes in. And if you're doing that for good, like it's one thing to get recognized for being a bad boy. It is. Especially when you're young, it feels good. I remember that, man. But there's so much more reward if they knew you were there to help them.
Yep. And that's what his life's all about, right? Like, is finding that like God-given strength and ability, that purpose, and then using it to like help people, right? And unfortunately, I had to go through all the things I went through and harm a lot of people and take someone's life, but like that was so I could relate to the people and help people down the road.
So tell us about the day you find out you're getting out. Like what is that like when you think that your road is just a revolving door of prison?
Yep.
And you realize you're going to get out and you actually do have a chance.
So I have a unique coming home story as well, right? But I wasn't supposed to come home because I did pick up some more time. They gave me 4 years with half, but then I got in trouble, obvious other troubles too. And so I maxed out my time, and my out date wasn't until 2026. Like I should still be in prison technically, right?
Yeah.
On God's time right now, right? But laws changed and things would happen, and I got a bunch of good time credit, and they let me come home early. But I remember there's a thing called a VIO. So if you have a certain crime, you have a certain amount of time, they don't allow you to go under level 2, right? So you can't go to like fire camps or anything outside the walls. So I go to my committee the one time a year. You see your counselors at your committee, and it's to like assess your points. Were you good for 6 months? Yeah. Or for a year? Yes. If you had a job for the whole year or employed, then you lose points, and that's how you drop custody. Or if you didn't, you did trouble, they assess them, they tack them on, you go to a different level. So when I went to my committee during COVID sometime, I think it was 21. Yeah, it was the 2021 committee. They asked me if I wanted to get my VIO taken off. And I was like, yeah, because then I was like, I could go to fire camp, right? And get even more time taken off. So they didn't want to because technically you needed 7 years clean. I only had like 5. But then they're like, you do a lot of work here. And so they took my VIO off, and I was going to go to fire camp. Counselor calls me at work, and she's like, hey, you want to go to MCRP? Now listen, the prisons are abbreviated. They use the initials, like, the counselors do. They don't ever say San Quentin State Prison. They say SQSP, right? And so MCRP sounded like some PC, like weird prison, right? Because there's a couple like M prisons that like were no good prisons. I'm like, nah. She's like, are you sure? I was like, what is it?
Doubled up on you.
She's like, it's like, it's transitional housing. Like you get out there, you get an ankle monitor, I'm like, oh yeah, sign me up. So they shoot me out to MCRP, which is a male community reentry program. And as long as you don't have sex crimes, you are a low level offender, and you're within 2 years to the house, and you're a legal resident in one of the counties that have an MCRP, right? Those are the main qualifications. So they shoot me out to it. Boom. I remember getting in that van and going out and seeing the Sally Port, the barbed wire, like, I'm never coming back to this place unless it's a volunteer, right? Never going to be restrained in this place. And I get there. I remember get up there in the afternoon because it was up north. My wife and kids got to come up and bring my clothes, and like that first like visit and hug, and I had Chick-fil-A for the first time, which
Good stuff, man.
good stuff, right?
Chick-fil-A.
And so I'm there, and how it works is, your first 90 days you do program, and then they let you go get a job, and they take like 50%, put it on a CD, and the rest you could, maybe it's a little bit more, the rest you could have. 72 days into it, they realized they made a mistake, and I wasn't a legal resident from this place. I committed my crime in that county, but I wasn't a legal resident.
Oh my gosh.
So they put the cuffs on me and they drove me back to San Quentin. I was like, oh man. And I remember like there was this dude that I was mentoring, and I was like loving on. I was actually going through 40 or purpose driven life, the 40-day challenge with them. And we were on like day 38 or something. And I like, he's crying. Like this kid's never like showed any emotions, and I'm seeing tears. And so I'm like shooken up, but I'm like, okay, I got to be strong for him right now. And I'm like, you got 2 more days left. You got to finish it on your own, and you need to find someone to do it with. Right. And that was my message as I'm leaving. And I get in the car, and I shed it. Like, I just like let it out, 1 or 2 tears, took a deep breath. But then I realized like there's someone at San Quentin that needs me. And this name popped up, Jesse, little Jesse. Little Jesse was the youngster that I was a mentor, groomed in to take my shortstop position on the baseball team, took over my my spot on the film production that we had created, and just was teaching. And then the Bob Goff, like he was my like PR guy with him. And so I just started thinking him, and I get back there. They put me down in the dorms. There's 1,000 guys. Guess whose bunk they put me on? Jesse's. Jesse just had 2 brothers who were murdered and needed someone. So I was like, in that moment, I'm like, all right, like, I'm here for a reason. But it was hard. And so I had to do like 106 days left at San Quentin. So I went back. It's free for 72 days, or structured freedom, I'd call it. I had an ankle monitor, but kind of was out in the world. Went back and then did 106 days and finally came home September 9th, 2022. And that was the best day. Like just having, family there. And, it was cool because like we wanted, like COVID protocols were still going on. So like not a lot of restaurants wanted big crowds, and there was a lot of people that wanted to celebrate my coming home day. And so I was like, let's just have a potluck at mom and dad's, and just whoever brings the best dish, well, I'll probably be hanging out with you most, right? So like I put a challenge out to everybody to cook their best meal. And then life, when you come home, like I got married in prison to Lacey, right? And so we had known each other from like the tattoo world and motorcycle world, but she was married to our kids' dad, and knew of her. But then right when I came out of the hole, and kind of had that God moment, I reconnected with her. Most of the time in prison, I did have a cell phone. I don't think they could be used for a good thing, right? Like stay connected, but obviously they could be used for bad things as well. But I reconnected with her, and so she was going through the divorce and just lots of domestic violence and trauma. So we kind of trauma bonded and became best friends, and asked her to marry me. And the kids, like I always wanted a family of my own, and give them the like structure that I really didn't have. And so coming home to her and the 4 kids we have little Beckham now, but she had her 4, and like that was a challenge. Like we hit the ground running. Like you got a bunch of kids, and they've been she's been grinding as a single mom, doing everything. And now like I'm out, and I wanted to work and contribute and get us into a house out of the apartment. And so hit the ground running, and lots of opportunities, and people wanted me to do this and that. And the biggest thing I think is I still a challenge, and you might relate. like I just feel like there's so many people that I need to serve and so many people I need to help, to where sometimes I forget about the closest, the most important people. You know, I get out doing so much.
Whichever ones these suckers lock onto.
Mm-hmm.
The eyes eat first.
Yep.
Whatever human being God put in your path, starting from the time you get up to the time you go to down, that's how you do it.
Yep.
Because I would do the same thing. I'm like, how many people we need to do this and that? And I was like, hey man, don't worry about that. I'm gonna bring them right to you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
And I mean, it helps.
Yep.
Because otherwise, we'll try to go to you, burn that battery down,
Yeah.
and then you'll be in a place you're not supposed to be.
Yep.
We do that.
That's me.
Because imagine you still have the voices.
Yep.
I do too. But the predominant one that I hear and that I listen to is the one upstairs. And then I'll listen to it. I'll know what to do. And then I'll be in the middle of it and somebody will do something. And then I'll be like, then that other side comes in and I'm like, oh, I could do it this way though.
Yeah.
I could get that done this way. You still have that?
Yep.
Oh, all right. 100%. I don't think that ever goes away.
No, that don't go away.
That's no, it never does. And I think that's so you can relate to whoever it is you're talking to.
Yep.
I mean, I've been on both sides. You've been on both sides.
Yep.
And if they know that, then you hit different. That means your sword's sharpened on both sides.
Yeah.
Well, that's why discipline and prayer is so, like, you have to have it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that discipline to pray and to not ask God what, for something, but ask him what he wants of you and that you can see it and to open your eyes to it. So you're always in like this reverent state of, I want to walk on your path. Just help me see it.
Yeah. Guide it.
Yeah, guide it. And if you don't do that, then you can get lost in the world.
Yep.
So easy.
Yeah. I think so. When I came home, talking about like just trying to follow God's instruction, I always knew that like I probably shouldn't go back to Petaluma. And I just like, from once I knew I was coming home, like I'm like, okay, because me and Ryan both were from Petaluma. The crime happened up way up north on the mountain where we were growing at, but we're both from Petaluma, which is, smaller town community. And but then Lacey, I was always praying, like, because she moved out from Arizona to Petaluma to be closer to us. And so, praying for a community to rally around her, which the church, got involved with the church, and we got the kids into St. Vincent's, a good, sports private school. And so like, I'm like, okay, Petaluma, even though it's crazy expensive, like Petaluma's, I'll come home to Petaluma. A month after I came home, it was like Halloween, just over a month, Halloween night, Ryan's family went out through our whole town and posted about 1,000 flyers through the whole community. The picture of me and the kids' face said, this is a murder in our community. You can't be here. And then the paper did a front page article. And so I just like, a couple things went through my mind. Like one, like obviously like I'm still just my proximity to this community is causing them harm still. I don't want to do that. But two, like I'm always going to protect my family. And, with the history, like if I'm at a grocery store and I don't know what's, it's probably not a smart thing for me to be in proximity to people who like, could potentially create an issue in person if we see each other. And if I'm with my kids, like just not smart. So we ended up like moving up north, and kind of getting out of there. And which was hard, right? Like just kind of getting settled into a job, don't have much money, moving is expensive. But then it just goes back to like one, like God told me, and I knew like 100% like Petaluma wasn't my spot, so I should have listened in the first place. But then two, like he put all these people in my life that made it a lot easier to go through that. So yeah,
Have you talked to them?
So, through that article, like there's been one of his brothers and sisters that reached out through the journalist and extended forgiveness. And
did you ask for it?
No, like just it happened. Like I've asked for it, and talked about it, and I always pray about it. And the reason why I'm able to like wake up and go through my days is because I believe like God's truly forgiven me and given me this opportunity to redeem myself. And that's the heaviest thing there is. the redemption part of it, like it's not a thing to take lightly, right? Like I've been given a second chance, probably a fifth chance, but with this, I've been given a second chance. And if I fail, like everything I've done is worth nothing, right? And like there's so many people that are looking at me to fail, like, oh, like we knew it, like can't entertain that. And like God allowed me to go through everything I went through, most importantly, to get where I'm at today. Like can't let that, go to nothing, go to waste.
Knowing what it makes them feel like when you fail. Can you imagine what it makes them feel like when you achieve?
Yep.
Because they know you have troubles with it.
Yep.
Like those of us that grew up where they, for whatever reason, we're always running on that freaking edge.
Yep.
It's like when we finally come around and catch the line and start doing the good stuff, it's amazing to them.
Yep.
More so than the kids that have always done good.
Yeah.
How about that?
It's funny.
I mean, you get more from them, from the kids who did good.
Yep.
And they're like, and I don't know what, that's a human thing. It's a concept and it's real.
Everybody loves like the Cinderella stories or the redemption stories. And like, when people, the normal's not normal, right?
Yeah.
And so like, those types of stories, people are always like, oh, like that's incredible. And it's funny because, all the Christian folks are like, oh, that's like, it's so incredible story and crazy and this and that. I'm like, but like, do you read your Bible? Because like God didn't use perfect people, he used broken people.
Right.
All of them.
Right. Like you shouldn't be surprised.
You sure that's the one you want? That's him. All right.
Yep.
That's the dude.
Yep. You shouldn't be surprised, right?
No, you shouldn't be, right?
Marcus was always a little rowdy when he was younger, and the judge that would in town that would like mold him to walk the right path ended up marrying us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's a Marine. He was tough. There's a few of them up there that when I would get into mischief,
it could be the guy that's like talked shit about him, and could put him in, but it ended up being a huge mentor. And
I deserved to be in there. Sure did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I learned quick too, though. Once you get some guys when you get in there, it's like, oh, okay.
Yep. Yep.
This is probably a lot cooler than I thought. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
So getting out, when did you decide like to start your programs and to go back and help people? Because I would think like you'd want to just stay away and not ever want to go back and mess with, the jail system at all.
Yeah. I think I have the record of like returning back to San Quentin, sooner than anybody else. I was back in within 28 days.
Oh my gosh. As a volunteer.
Yep. Yep. And so, while I was in, I co-founded For This Productions, which is the only incarcerated film program in the world that has its own social media and YouTube that we got the state to give us. So we have volunteers that manage it. But we produce all the content, tell the stories ourselves. So I, going in for that, the baseball team, just so many different, anytime I go in, one, because when I seen guys who got out and came back, it was like, those were like beacons of hope. It was like, man, like that's going to be me one day. And so I just hope every time I go in that like, I could bring that hope into those guys, at least for that day, for that moment. But then it also allows me to like feel that pain that I went through and just a reminder of like where everything changed and where I came from. I don't really want to forget that. Right. So just going back in, like I said, I always wanted to like help people, specifically men, like, become unbreakable, live life through sobriety. And so over the last 2 years, going in and out and trying to figure out, different ways where I could, work and support my family, but also have a big impact. I think in February, I kind of stumbled across this facility that it's always been used as a rehab facility. And so I was like God just kind of threw it there, and I didn't have a plan to open up a rehab or anything. I had this dream. And then one of the guys who's like been mentoring me in like business for many years, like kind of just a mentor in all things, but really like my leadership, I'm always sharing crazy ideas. And he's like, no, probably not, you know, and I shared this idea with him and he's like, let's go for it. And so we're building a residential treatment facility for men on parole and probation. At least our first couple model programs will be just for guys on parole or probation. Really what I'm trying to build is an alternative to prison. So I want to build a program that, you know, instills the discipline, the structure, provides the value, the opportunity, the hope, most importantly, makes men unbreakable. Like, you know, because back to a lot of these guys are we all know what we're capable of, but they're just broken and they don't know. So we're trying to
give them a purpose.
Yeah.
Men, if they don't have a purpose, that's what we do. Start
Yep.
fighting and doing all that kind of self-destructive stuff. But if we could figure out a way to where when you actually go into the institution, that's your university, and then there's also jobs that have been created by the men who had to go through the university and create its own little empire.
Yep.
Like, look, if you bottomed out over there, man, we got something.
Yep.
And that you got to have discipline. That's just the way it is, man. The most dangerous thing down here is an undisciplined human mind.
Yep.
That's where daddies come into play.
Yep.
You get discipline from your dad. You get your mother gives you manners.
Yep.
That's why you always go back to her, right? It's just like, man, a man will get his ass whooped so bad sometimes his friends won't hang out with him. Mom will.
Yep.
Well, she
I got one right down the road.
provides that unconditional
Yeah,
love.
unconditional love, man. There's something about them.
Yep.
That's why you can never fault them.
Yep.
Because that's love.
Yep.
If you pull women away from planet Earth, there goes your love.
Yep. Then it's just
Just evil. Just violence, baby.
Yep.
This is the arena. That's a true statement.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was studying the Americas a little while ago, man, and when we were trying to get over here and form everything, it wasn't working till the women showed up and everything. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's a true statement. That's probably the way it is.
We should probably keep that
up. Yeah, keep that in the back of our head.
Secret.
Hey, look, guys, if you're an alpha male around here, man, get mad at other guys. Fine, man. Don't ever disrespect our women. And we freaking need them, man.
Amen.
Do whatever you can do.
Yeah.
Just don't get mad at them.
Yeah. No, and so, yeah, God allowed me to endure everything and go through what I went through so I could relate to you know, other men who struggled. And so, you know, that's what we're doing. And, you know, the plan is to have these programs and facilities, you know, across the state and hopefully across the country. Cause, you know, there's men out there that need what we have to offer. And, you know, you know, anytime you get a bunch of guys together and build a brotherhood and, you know, allow for an environment of healing and lean into all the things we like, but do it in a positive way, good things happen to it. And we better husbands, fathers, and leaders is what we need.
Y'all are the ones that can do that. Actually, the most powerful at it are the ones who got stuck in the prisons.
Yep. It's true.
That is absolutely because of what's inside of them. It's absolutely what's inside of them. You know that because of how they wound up in there.
Well, this is what I've always said. Every man needs to either go to prison or to the military.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the military is going to strip you. You're going to be taken away from you know what you know. You're going to be pulled out of your comfort zone. Prison's going to do the same thing. So like obviously like I don't want men to go to prison, but like
I know what you're saying.
You needed like those. Every man needs to experience like being stripped from everything, and
especially in America because we have everything.
We have everything. And
it's not like we're taking it away from it. We're just removing you from it, so you can see how wonderful it is.
92% of people in prison are coming home. So like, you know, we've worked with I'm working with the Robertsons all the time on like we've been working for years on trying to come up with a film that like highlights all these stories and, you know, and the motto that we keep, you know, circling around is like today's prisoners, tomorrow's neighbor. And so for like the listener, like that, you know, is very conservatives, not, you know, big on, you know, prison reform and the criminal justice. Well, I too am not a big fan of a lot of the advocacy and a lot of the progressive things that are going on. But like today's prisoners, tomorrow's neighbor, like we need to, as you said, like capitalize, take advantage of these men and women who are like, have lots of things to offer to the communities. Like go build them up while they're inside, at least provide the opportunities and the education for them to better themselves. So when they do come home, because they could be, you know, one, they could be productive members of
Citizens.
society,
Yeah.
but then they could add value where we need it,
Yeah,
because we
value.
all know we need our
You should come out of there with something,
Yep.
Mhm.
a skill set,
Yep.
and it should go ahead.
Did you ever go back and talk to the guy the stomper guy?
So every time I share that story, people ask, right? And so
Everybody's probably fascinated with Todd, right? That's his name, Todd. Yeah.
So, we're definitely I'm definitely gonna go see him and try to get some time with them. I would love to do it to where I could like get him to like talk and share like his
Because
side of it.
it's obviously, I mean, just from me listening to you tell that story, like God was speaking through him to you on that day. If it weren't for him saying that stuff to you, it would have just been same all day.
Yep.
But it was that combined with the day before your Benny's birthday. It was so many different things, but him saying that to you, you're like, wait, what am I doing?
You know why that happens? Because an alpha won't listen to a beta.
Yep.
So you literally had to be put into the cage next to something more deadly than you were.
So you're the first person that like pointed that out, and like obviously like
that's what that was.
I imagine like
that happened to me. That's how I know that.
Yep. But you're exactly right.
That's how it happened. Yeah.
Put in the cage next to the the baddest dude like in the system, and he talked to me. Yeah,
that's how it happened to me too. So when you go back to film him, just hit him with this. You want to get him to do it like this. Say, hey, look, man, give me some wisdom on what you got, because in your world you have it.
Yep,
you have something. You gave it to me. I came back. How old are you?
37.
Yeah, okay. So you remember those videos we had in school, like on the projectors, like how to do good, like from the early days?
Yep.
Yeah. Because y'all have your own production team. Get them to do that.
Yep.
Those are the best motivationals. Like, hey, don't come in here because you're going to have to deal with me.
Yep.
This is what I did, this is that, and the other. Because kids will listen to that. You know why? Because he's a predator, an alpha predator.
Yep.
And by design, we as soon as you walk in, especially guys like us, man, into any room, you can't help that. Like, who are the badasses in here? Who think they're the badasses in here? Who really runs this place?
Yep.
Men will always do that.
He obviously has a crazy story too, because he wouldn't have talked to you about making yourself, like giving you a second chance, if he didn't think about it himself.
Yep.
There's something in there.
So there's something in there that's, he has made the decision, okay, whether he doesn't think he's deserving of redemption or whatever it is, but he knows that other people in there have a chance.
Yep. Oh, he's a smart dude.
Imagine how thick his armor is.
Yep.
That's why he acts like that, right? Yep. So men, the harder life is on them, the deeper and stronger their armor is. So when they wake up in the morning, it doesn't matter who walks in there, they're going to be on it.
Yep.
To get through that is very difficult.
Very difficult. Yeah.
Very difficult. Especially in there.
Yep.
They've never show you any inclination he has any kind of weakness in there.
Yep.
That's by design, man.
I would also be interested to hear the stories of like the captain and some of the guys on the other side, the guards that were in there that showed you grace. Because they could have easily just said F you and treated you like a rat in there.
This is the part that I tell the guys, right? Because there was times where I'd go in and like Captain Escalera, I'd go into the captain's porch and he'd challenge me with the Bible verse. And like, but the guys in blue are seeing me go into the captain's porch like, oh, like, and I'd tell myself, oh, they probably think I'm snitching right now. Right? But then it got to a point where like, one, I'll whoop them, like if anybody says anything, but two, like, I don't care, most importantly, right? But like, then it gets to like, I tell people, like, it always used to be told to me, like the joke was with all the brothers, right? They call me white privilege, right? But they knew that it was just the joke, right? Because like, I'd be able to get anything done in the prison, right?
It's a joke, but it's true.
But like, it's true in the sense of like, yeah, like my race might be helpful in some of these conversations, but most importantly, it's like how I'm showing up.
Yeah, it's your character. It's not your race.
It's how I'm character up. Like I would, I don't like to get into the whole race thing and stuff, but like, unfortunately, if I was anything but white where I committed my crime, I probably would received a life sentence just because it was Michael Moore did a documentary on the sheriff's department called The Good Old Boys, right? Like they and so like anywhere I see that type of stuff, right? Like I'm always gonna like speak up for like the injustice, but like overall, like I was able to overcome and get the things done that I did, not because of a skin color, but because like I was accountable. I told the officers, the captain, the warden, like, I apologize. Like, I was never intending to like hit one of your officers and your staff. Like, give me, and then I asked for a second chance. And this is back to like, if I knew I had a problem, I knew I had a problem with alcohol and stuff, but I was afraid to ask for help. And so, you know, Ryan still might be living if I actually asked for help, but I was, you know, as a man, like in our culture, you're not supposed to ask for help, right? At least that's how it was then, right? Um, and but like at the prison, like I asked for I asked for something. So a lot of people don't ask, right? They're like, they just assume it's always going to be a no. Well, like I remember there was this teacher, and like probably not the best story to say, but he's like, look, you're men. If you go to 100 women and ask them if they, you know, would sleep with you,
One of
them's gonna say
one out of
yes.
100.
But if you don't ask,
If you don't ask, you'll never know.
You're never gonna know,
Bro, that's
right?
wisdom right there, man. My chief gave me that same line.
So like,
Just ask them.
so say that to say,
Yeah, I remember that.
you say that. I say that you got a closed mouth don't get fed, and you gotta be willing to like step out of that comfort zone and ask. But that was always the joke, like, oh, white privilege, and like, no, dude, like this is just like
gotta
working,
ask,
right?
yeah, man.
You know, working and gaining the trust that like people could trust you, they could count on you, they could rely on you, and as men, like that's what it's all about. Like you want to be trusted. I used to not be trusted, right? Like people.
Well, you're only trusted because you did what you said you were going to do in your second chance.
Yep.
You have held yourself accountable. You haven't gone back to drinking. You haven't gone back to a criminal lifestyle. You did what you said you were going to do.
Yep.
And then it's because of those actions they can trust you. It's the people that say, oh, I'll do that and I'll get a second chance. And they get it. And then they just hide their criminal activity.
Yep.
Those are the people that lose so much respect for like a whole category of people because
All people.
yeah, or just all people because they're lying about it. If you're just truthful and trustworthy, then
Dude, that word reliable.
Mhm.
You know, in the Midwest, like our group of people in the Midwest, they're known for their reliability.
Yep.
Mhm.
You want to be Midwest reliable.
Yeah.
I don't care where a dude comes from, how he's painted up, what he looks like. If other men know that sucker's reliable,
Yeah.
he can go do his thing. If we're not using him and he's doing, that's fine, man. Everyone's got a habit, a hobby, and a good time.
Yep.
But if you call that joker up, he'll freaking show. You know what that does when another man knows that? Like when you got a buddy that'll show and go. We talked about it earlier, man. That's why we pack up.
Yep.
He's like, but that reliable guy, man,
Well,
and alcohol gets in the way of that for sure.
It allows those people that, you know, to be more confident,
Right?
Like
Takes
if I
burden
know
off
I
of
can
them.
call Marcus up and Marcus got my back, like it allows me to be more confident in handling certain situations because let's just face it, like in life, like, yeah, we accomplish things on our own, but like nothing great is accomplished without a team.
Period.
And so, you know, I remember when I was like early on in one of my best friends, mentors, he's like, Branden, he's like, I'm gonna give you one piece of advice. He's look, in life, yeah, you could go faster alone, but you go farther together. So build a team around you. Like just because these guys are moving slower and not, you know, doing the things that you want them to do, and so you think you just go do it all for them. Like one, you're not teaching them right, like move at their pace, but like you're gonna go farther with them. You're gonna go farther together.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? It just popped in my mind. One of the big differences that I've seen when you were talking about being in sports as a kid, and when you don't have that, you feel like, well, where's my identity? I can't just be me. One thing that I've noticed a lot of the guys in the military or especially special forces, they not only did team sports, or maybe they didn't even do team sports, they did martial arts or karate, some sort of martial arts where it was an individual sport, learning about character and discipline in themselves. And they might have that same powerful, you know, I don't even know what you call it, gumption to walk the line, to be that edge walker, but that it's the character building as a kid with the martial arts. I think that's so important in today's time. Like
Discipline.
the discipline of it.
Yep.
Well, and you're taught like not to start a fight. You're taught to
Well, here's what
Finish the
happens.
Yeah, like-
here's what happens with martial arts. All right, just real fast. In the beginning, you're learning all your techniques, and then when you get your black belt is when you're the most dangerous because you want to road test it.
Yep.
Mhm.
You won't go looking for it, but damn sure won't run away from it.
Yep.
Period.
Mhm.
The real concept behind it is after years of the training, you realize I don't want to fight
Yep.
because it hurts. You know, and I'm
It
good
does.
enough not to know that I don't have to fight you, and you learn other ways to disarm somebody. But there's a process.
It's a long process.
It's a long process. It absolutely is, man. And they always preach like, "Hey, don't fight with this." And like, well, this is why I'm learning this,
Yep.
so I don't get picked on. And then not to get picked on, we fight until you get there's levels of it. But if you incorporated that, let's say in there,
In
and have
school,
all of them
it
do
needs
that,
to be in school.
It needs to be in
at
Schools, yeah, in the
a
schools.
Young age, because that is like a self-confidence.
the confidence,
It's a discipline at a very young
You don't want to
age.
fight because you're always fighting in there. That's where you get that out of
Yeah,
there, man.
Especially now with the kids like in social media and video,
Yeah.
like, you know, like, yeah, we need to figure out a way to like get into the schools, teach these.
It just needs to be a class,
Yeah,
like
just a
a,
class.
a martial
Like a
art.
PE, it's your discipline, your civics. You know,
Yep.
you know how civil you are with another human being once you rolled with them, when you
Yep.
because you can feel them.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, that's a thing, and you
Yep.
get you get better with it. Then you for whatever reason in the human condition, once we fight each other and roll like that, we become buddies.
Yep. All my best friends were
From a scrap.
From a scrap.
Every
Lacey,
single one of mine too.
Lacey, my wife, she's like for the longest time she was like your clean date for most people is like sober. It was for me, it was like fighting. Even though like I gave my life to God and I got sober, like I'm still in prison and I still like was like no quick triggered and fighting. But then it hurts, right? You don't want to do it. It got to a point to where I remember, I think it was my last fight. The dude was like spinning and moving his head and like I got him and I put him out, but like got my pinky and I broke my hand, right? And then I had
It's
to
the
go
little ones, right?
Hey,
Like,
and then I had to go, and then like when he went out, like we were up on the 5th tier where all the fights happen in one of the buildings at San Quinn, and like he went out and slid because the floors had just been mopped, and he was like hanging a little bit over and I just
Oh my
seen him like
gosh.
going off into the shower. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can't be doing this, but my hand really hurt, and then I had to go fabricate this whole thing to like, so an officer seen me hit my hand and then go, because I had to get it fixed up, and I was like, this is just not worth it no more. And
Yeah.
so, but
that's
like,
what happens. You just kind of grow out of it.
you're like, this is not worth it. It was
Yeah.
fun until it
fun.
wasn't.
I'm not going to come down any guy for that. Like I'll never come down on a man for that. I won't. But I will say that like we grow out of it.
We grow out of it.
And there will be a point to where you're going to turn around because you're going to run into yourself.
Yep.
Like me and you are going to run into each other ourselves out there one day
Yep.
at that
Hope
young
not.
age. Me neither. But I'm
And
ready.
we don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like this now, so I can talk to him. I'm like, hey, look, calm down.
yeah.
I got some good stuff for you. I'm gonna hit you with some wisdom, not a fist.
And I'm gonna pray for you.
Yeah.
Pray for you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And
Well,
then-
we're at 2 hours. Thank you so
I mean,
much.
I can stay here and talk to you all day,
Yeah,
Roth.
we could
Thanks for
talk
how
to
can people
you.
follow you? What do we need to do to?
Yeah, I got Instagram, Branden Terrell Coaching. Really, that's just Instagram. We're working now at my rehab facilities called Elevate Impact. So we don't have a website, but we're working with a branding marketing company right now. So probably in the next couple months, we'll have a website, elevateimpact.com. But yeah, I'm super grateful for the opportunity. And like I said, like just driving down the dirt road is like, why is it, you have all these people telling me like that served, that like done honorable things, that they do anything to be in this seat, and why did God give it to me? Like, I don't take that lightly. And I hope this conversation leads to some good things for people who are listening.
I will.
For sure.
Most definitely. God bless you, man. Keep up the good work.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.